It's been weakening, but relative to other currencies, I think its current valuation is not unfair. So from that perspective, exporters are always wanting to see their currencies weaker, but I think the relative exchange rate for Thailand is not inappropriate, and I believe that the central bank is keeping a close eye on that, and so far has pretty much left it to market forces, which I think is correct.
Well, and what about rates? Are they close to bottoming, or is it very hard to tell?
We don't have much room to go. It's only 1.5% to go on the policy rate before we hit zero. But given the way things are, there's more to come. I'm quite certain. There's been very sharp reduction of 2.25% in the past 2.5 months, and they've got 4 meetings to go. The monetary policy grouping this calendar year. So I would expect to see further declines unless there was a very rapid change in economic conditions. The sad part, I have to say, is that what's happening in the US in particular is not dissimilar to what happened in Asia just over a decade ago. Excessive exuberance, excessive and lending, inflation of asset prices. Basically, I guess one way of putting it, capitalism out of control. But I don't think in itself it's a death knell for capitalism. The proof is how the system adjusts to the disaster. And as is the case in Asia, we didn't recover from the financial crisis by turning our back to capitalism. We solved the problem through capitalism. We turned our production from being domestic-oriented towards being more export-oriented, and that's causing a different set of problems today. But markets adjust, economies adjust, and I'm quite confident that the world economy will adjust to current circumstances.
The 97 crisis, because of that, Asia's economies reformed, they changed, they cleaned up their act, very broadly speaking. Yeah. And a lot of people are saying they are in much better shape now, fundamentally. Yeah. Balance of payments positions, etc. Banks are stronger, etc. as well. Thailand right now, the banking system, the financial system, that's your baby.
Yeah.
What kind of position is it in?
Very strong. Probably one of the strongest in the region, which I think implies one of the strongest group of financial institutions in the world, perhaps, based on capital adequacy ratios and so on. The Thai banks have also been reliant entirely upon domestic funding through their deposit base. And even today, lending against deposit is only about 88%. So there's no liquidity problem as such. And as a result of the fact that they had no overseas assets, it meant that they weren't touched by the decline in these asset values. So from that perspective, the problem for me as finance minister is luckily not in having to save the banks. We did that 11 years ago and still paying for it. The problem is how to reduce their perception of risk in order to stimulate lending in the system, which is a problem every government, every finance minister is facing around the world.
The ASEAN countries are firmly committed to free trade, and will do whatever we can to make sure that no countries resort to protectionist measures to try to ease their way out of the crisis. Because we know that if any of that happens, and if all countries begin to join in, then everybody